Welcome back to another edition of the Bebo Knows podcast. This is your host, Brian Bullock, and with me I have the boys from the Deep Dive podcast, Drew and Andy. How you guys doing today?
Solid.
Yeah? I have nowhere else I'd rather be than hamming it up, talking about gambling, Twitter, enjoying a cold beer. This is fantastic, man.
We fully adjusted the podcast. We recorded a day early just for you. And it worked out better. It worked out better with the guest anyway, I think. But yeah, we did some NASCAR talking last night just to cleared the schedules for you.
Well, I appreciate it. Now, do you guys put a little more production value into yours? I think because Whale, I'm guessing you edit the podcast.
I do. It usually takes me about 5 minutes, though. All I do is kind of chop the front, chop the end, run a compressor over it.
Compressor, always the compressor.
Always the compressor. The compressor makes the sound quality a little better. And then, if there's any fuck-ups or flubs or, dead air that I need to clip, I go and clip it.
Yeah, what do you say, 1 out of 10? Like, I absolutely had to take a phone call in the middle of the podcast, so we just write down the time. Or 40 minutes in, we'll clip that little part and we'll resume. I'd say maybe 1 out of 10 or 15 you have to do any editing like that. Yeah. Usually, otherwise it's one take Andy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I do the same thing. If you haven't noticed, I don't edit shit. In fact, well, the only time literally that I stopped one of these video ones was when I had to go take a shit with thick slicing. I had to hit the stop button, and then hold on, it's going to be 10 minutes. So, anyways, I know this. Yeah,
I'm prepped in that regard. I am cleaned out. I've eaten supper. I'm already the editing, man. Editing is a pain. Like the people that legitimately do that for a living, edit professional podcasts. Jesus, that's so hard to actually do anything along those lines. We try to keep it pretty simple on our end. And
absolutely.
Yeah, you talk of your outline you sent us. I mean, how often do you think we actually have an outline, Whale?
Well,
1 out of 10, probably.
1 out of 10, maybe. Most of them are just off the cuff.
That's kind of what I gathered. And you're talking about editors, and if there's ever any editors that listen to my old podcast, they must have died already because had multiple heart attacks every time they heard a train go by.
I'll tell you this. I think there's a genuine kind of pirate radio feel to what we're doing, both the audio and the video stuff. We put just enough effort into it that people aren't actively complaining about how bad it is. Yeah. But we don't. But you try to go anything beyond that, and you're doing it with a 2-man operation. It's just not practical. You know.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I mean, back in the day with my shitty internet, remember?
Yeah, that was a big upgrade for us. We took on a sponsor. We got a little money, and Andy got a nice little office with the high speed internet.
So
huge upgrade for us. Huge.
So you're not using AIM anymore for your communication.
Rough. People joked about how my wife would kick me out for those our halftime scopes. Why are you outside? It looks cold as balls. I have my Wi-Fi. Yeah, the Wi-Fi in the house is this speed. Or if I stand on top of this pirate ship out in the yard, the actual data I can get on the cell phone is twice as fast. So I'm just using my data. It's literally better than my internet. I spend a lot of time at the studio.
All right, well, I think most people probably know you guys from a betting perspective, but this is just an annual rite of passage for any new guests. So, if you want to give a brief introduction on how you guys got into betting, when you started betting, things you like to bet. Like I said, most people probably already know that, but, memorable betting moments, things like that. So, Whale, you want to start that one off?
Yeah, so I started betting when I was in college. I was a sophomore in 2001. And I had a friend who was older than me who had a hot tip on a college basketball game, and he was like, "I'm gonna, Long Beach State is a slam dunk. The books don't respect this team. Got to bet them tonight." And I was like, "Man, this is a good tip. I need to figure out how to do this. How do you do this?" And he was like, okay, log on to sportsbook.com and get your debit card out and put $100 in and then bet that on Long Beach State. And I was like, all right, done deal. And they covered easily. And I was like, oh man, this is so easy. Like, holy shit. Like this is a dream come true. I have a guy that knows stuff, and and this sportsbook.com account. I didn't know, I don't have to talk to a bookie. I don't need to worry about credit or getting in trouble with like my my TA or my parents or anything. Like, this is perfect. And so that's how it started. And I bet online for probably 6 years, 7 years. And then it got like real dicey that the companies were just going to go get illiquid. And I had some money in Wessex when Wessex disappeared. And at that point I was like, look, if these companies aren't even going to be around and, you can't even get your money out, like, this is stupid. And so I took a hiatus for about 4 or 5 years, kind of focused on my professional development. And then in like 2014, Bovada all of a sudden was accepting credit card deposits from U.S. customers again. And I was like, okay, now this feels like a real legitimate website again. This isn't going to disappear overnight by some decree of the government. So I got back involved, started doing mostly NFL, a little bit of NBA, a little bit of college basketball at the time, and figured, hey, I need to start a Twitter profile so I can get better at this, because in the first year of doing it, I just had massive ups and downs, tons of losses, and just kept having to re-up my account every, probably 5 or 6 weeks after. It was same kind of pattern. Get on a heater, think I knew better than anybody else. Up my unit size, and then and then empty it all out. And so that that cycle went on for about a year before I realized, like, okay, I need to either quit doing this altogether, or I need to get more serious about it and try to learn and try to improve. And Twitter, gambling Twitter specifically, really was quite helpful in sort of turning around my sports betting experience. And 5-6 years later, with this the whale capper account, I feel like I'm getting more enjoyment and more entertainment out of this than I ever thought was possible. So it's been quite a journey.
So you joined Twitter specifically for the gambling part then, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, a roommate I had in after college when I was betting on Wessex and sportsbook.com and stuff. He had a gambling Twitter account that was pretty well known, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is just get up there, just start posting free picks. Like, you'll get followers, you'll get engagement, you'll learn some tricks, you'll get feedback." And he was absolutely right. Like, that was exactly the right way to get involved, and the rest was history.
Cool. All right, what about you, Andy?
Kind of similar with the hiatus. Like, I bet on some of those same books way back in the day, and you talk about the Drew being, you think you're too damn smart and like, oh, this is easy. I have an ATM on my laptop. This is wicked easy. Like, same. I just fooled around with small money here and there, and at one point I hit a pretty big parlay for me, like a 6 or 7 teamer, because that's the kind of bettor I was. Like, I was legitimately putting in a shitload of parlays every NFL Sunday because it was fun. And I mean, this was a sweater, like, running back goes out at the 1 yard line to preserve an under or something, or the spread in the last leg. Like, it was me standing up and screaming at the TV, kind of yelling, to win like $800 or something. It was, it was huge for me. It was a massive win. I want to say it was at sportsbook.ag. I think they used to. I can't remember what all their branding they've gone through over the years, but that was one of the original ones I ended up using as well. I never did have one of those bad experiences like the poker people either, but like the Wessex, where I lost a bunch of money. But yeah, and then I just kind of took a hiatus as well. I figured out pretty quickly, like, that the books were kind of out to get you, because I'd won all my picks won obviously that day too. So I won all my straight bets. I won my parlay. I said, yeah, give me $1,000. And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, we'll mail you a check. It should be there in like 9 to 15 weeks. In the meantime, we're going to leave that balance in there for you.
Just in case you want to bet with it.
Just in case. Well, I'm looking at that. I'm like, well, I have to, like, I don't remember what I wanted to buy, but I'm like, I'm going to buy something fun with this because it's won money. It's not my wages. It's awesome. And I'm like, this is kind of a shitty deal. And I think maybe that kind of disenchanted me. And then I had some buddies that were into it, and they started. One of them actually started booking. Like he started to be a bookie,
Okay.
and he wasn't. I mean, he's not a great sports bettor. He wasn't a good bookie. Like I feel bad talking shit because I love this guy. I still talk to him all the time. But he's maybe the only guy I've ever known who lost money on both sides of the counter.
Wow.
he got shelled by us pretty much. I mean, he booked his friends. It was weird, but it was a lot of fun just talking shit to him. And then, and then I did start to get in. I was on Twitter, but I didn't realize there was gambling Twitter. I followed a bunch of sports accounts. You follow like ESPN, and then you get a little deeper. And honestly, the first sports gambling account, I've told Will this a bunch of times. I've told this story, NROP. I don't know if you know who NROP was.
Yeah.
But that was like my second hallelujah moment. I'm like, oh my God, people are just putting free picks out there. I'm just gonna play all his picks. They have to be. I mean, this one has 10 stars after it. That has to be. I put like $200 on that one, and like obviously you know how that went. But I mean, that was an introduction into the space. I did run into a lot of other people who weren't NROP. People who weren't just putting out a shitload of free plays that weren't any good. People that actually wanted to engage and talk and Drew. I met Drew, a bunch of other people I talked to a lot on a daily basis about sports gambling here and there, and kind of went from there. Now I spend way too much time on Twitter.
You think?
That's true. Yeah. Yes. Same.
All right, yeah. So let's transition into our first topic here with current life without sports. And you guys are still producing quite a bit of podcast content despite the lack of sports. And I listened to the last one with the Memorial Day breakdown and all that. So I kind of have an idea of some of the things you're betting. But how's that been going? Like, are you guys missing having the plethora of playoff sports right now?
I definitely am missing NBA playoffs, just from an entertainment standpoint. It's one of my favorite betting experiences of the entire calendar year, and to not have that this spring has been tough. But I can equally say that the break from putting out daily content for sports betting and the stress that comes along with living through the highs and lows of the NBA playoffs, that has been a pretty good mental health break, really, not having that.
Yeah.
And then just out of weird coincidence, and this goes for we'll get to the other kind of interesting tidbits later, I'm sure, but you build this network of people who have expertise all over the place, just through the gambling Twitter network. People who have advantage information on certain sports, certain niches, horse racing, baseball, and in Korea and stuff like that, and Joey Knish with all the back and forth we had with the NFL draft prop market. It's because there hasn't been a daily grind on NBA, and I've just been kind of sitting here with account balances and just firing on random known outcomes from NBA sims and NFL draft props and horse racing, fixed odds,
simulated horse racing.
Yeah, simulated horse racing. The month of April and May, my bankroll, my ROI looks fake. It doesn't look real. Almost everything has just been wildly advantage stuff coming through. That's just been huge. And because I haven't been I need to preserve this bankroll so I can bet on 5 NBA games today.
Yeah.
I'm just whatever. Put it all at risk on this this sim that's is a known outcome. Why not? If they don't honor it,
they might even pay us.
But yeah, they might even pay us. And so that kind of stuff has been coming in, and this has probably been my most profitable spring.
Wow.
Short of maybe one. I had one NBA playoffs where I hit every series from the first round through the finals.
Wow.
And that was incredibly profitable. Last year I had the really good run with the Raptors that paid for an awesome vacation.
Nice.
But this spring has been just absolutely stupid. It's just the both golf exhibition matches went my way. So I mean, I'm gonna knock on wood because I'm sure I'm pressing my luck even just talking about being on a heater. But it's been unbelievable this last.
You
couple
never
months.
walk away from a heater.
Never walk away. Right? No.
Has it been that kind to you as well, Andy? The spring, or have you been taking more of a break?
We're betting a lot of the same stuff. I mean, we're talking to the same people. It's like, well, you know, I drained a lot of my accounts just to keep myself out of trouble. I'm like, man, I don't want to be the guy who's just firing live bets on like Nicaraguan soccer and stuff. And you know, so I drained a shitload of my, like almost all my balances, but then everything started to all my futures started to cancel. I'm like, oh man, like my balances started to go back up because I had so many, well, especially college basketball conference tournaments. Some of those weren't immediate. Some of them actually took a couple days or week. You know, one book took a little while to refund those. I mean, I did make some bets on like when, you know, will basketball be back before like April 15th or something. You know, I made a few of those that would win, and it's like, well, now I have balances again, and you know, then the NFL draft came around, and it's like, man, there's a better line here. I'm going to move some money around. All of a sudden, like 5 or 6 of my books have balances, and it's same kind of thing where, you know, we went hard on the NFL draft, and obviously that went well. Like that, but outside of that, it's just been kind of tailing some other smarter people, like Drew said. Some when there's known outcomes, those are nice. That makes betting a little easier.
Yeah.
And then there's just some working some things out. Like, the match. Boy, I said that to you. You weren't even watching the beginning. I said, it's Tigers like minus 1,000 live, and I'm regretting not emptying 3 or 4 accounts in this because we bet on Tiger and Peyton, but not heavy enough, I guess. So just a mismatch of here and there. And then I mean, there's some smart people putting out some good content on Korean baseball. I've been betting Korean baseball. I'm up. I'd have to go actually look at how much, but I'm winning without really handicapping. I'm just kind of reading some other people's information and reading a few articles and making some calls here and there. But that's a fun market too, because my kids are up early. I'm up at 5 a.m. Central. So
that's like
I'm up and like, hey, the game's just started.
Yeah, that's like the Chicago Cubs game when they went to Japan. That started at like 3 or 4 a.m. versus the Mets a while ago, many seasons ago. So yeah, what I wanted to mention about the Korean baseball. So like, are these people who actually bet it even when like everything else is going on?
Mixed for sure.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of guys who do bet the Pacific Asian Rim baseball year round, so they know it quite well. But I don't know. I guess Andy, you probably have I have a funny story about the NFL draft. But Andy, what's your angle on baseball? It's pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to know who's who. It's like when I talked about first getting into gambling space and not knowing who's bullshit artists, like knowing who's, you know, this guy's putting out free KBO plays. Well, it's because he doesn't have, you know, his normal sports to sit and tout.
Yeah.
You know, there's some people that are just throwing shit at the wall. Or if you know who's actually putting in the time and research, or if you can talk to some people behind the scenes, I shouldn't say I'm doing no handicapping. I am doing a little bit of research for him firing on some of these, but it's a fun sport to live bet as well. But if you can figure out who's actually giving out good information, do a little bit of digging into this.
Like, our buddy Lidman.
Lidman stuff.
Numbers.
I love it. If I'm in an agreement with, like, I won't look at his tweets until after I run some stuff, because I hate that it fucks it. He puts it out so early.
Yeah.
And if he's on the same thing as me, that's like we should do a Lidman consensus. He doesn't even know I'm betting this. But like, I think anytime he bets that he's on the same thing as me, it's like it always wins.
Yeah, there's been.
He should be putting more on the run lines, though. Man, he's laying all that juice. Every time he's like, I'm taking Dusan minus 170 and a little on the run line, and they always cover the run line. Like he could be crushing those.
Yeah, that's a good angle. And there's some slow books out there too. You know, I'd
forgotten about that.
it's a little if you can catch some steam in Korean baseball for sure. So because the numbers move the numbers are way more volatile than average baseballs.
Well, and you'd have to imagine too that a lot of these books are like the rest of the world and laying people off. So there's probably like opportunities to take advantage of people who might not be as sharp, like making lines.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of the NFL draft success came down to that too, because there was a lot of operators that were like putting more out than you normally saw. I felt like, and there were, you didn't even really need to have any inside information to make money on the NFL draft, because the
what about
opportunity.
Live betting?
The live betting was super fun. Wait,
live betting the NFL draft?
Yeah, that was.
Oh shit! I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, they.
It shouldn't be for that one. Jesus.
Yeah, but like you didn't need to preserve bankroll, and you could spread out across a bunch of different books and create synthetic holds that were like 80%. Like there was massive arbitrage to be had at any given moment across, because there's no, they're not on the Don Best screen, so they're not kind of conforming to certain prices across the space. For the props, and some of those operators were taking some big bets. The Bet Online did a good job. I thought they were kind of the market leader more or less for the NFL draft props. Their prices were always kind of moving the quickest and the sharpest, I thought, until the live props. They were offering live offense or defensive player. And I think Cleveland Browns, like Jesus. 8-1 or 9-1 on those live bets.
Wow.
Like the Cowboys got me, because I thought the Cowboys. I didn't think they were going to take Lamb, even though he was the best player available, because their defense is so bad. But they drafted best player available as opposed to drafting for need. So be it. And that was I got a good price on defensive players, so I'm not sad about it. But yeah, I think that was overall, the live betting was just wildly successful. Nice. And we were flush, after day one. I looked up at, some of the books put up round 2 props overnight between round 1 and round 2. And all of a sudden, like, limits were higher. And I was like, wait, what? And you added up the hold on some of these holds went from like 4 or 5% to like 20%. Right. So I think in general, like, they got smoked on day one. And so they were like, okay, well, no one really knows any of this stuff. Let's just up our holds and take more bets on, write more bets on this. And I got a message from Joey, out of the blue. He's like, go get, kicker field at nitrogen God. For 50-1. And I was like, 50-1? What? I did it like 5 seconds of research. Like, Patriots need a kicker. What kicker do they like? Couldn't find anything about it. And so, you look at like the top of the kicker market was the Georgia guy, the guy with the specs that he can see into the future.
Rodrigo Blankenship.
Blankenship, yeah. He was like minus 250. He can't make 50-yard field goals. Belichick has no interest in taking him. So it was like, okay, field is money. And lo and behold, he takes the guy who was an alt-right militia guy from Marshall, who was in the field. And credit to Nitrogen, they graded that thing. No questions asked. Had got withdraw my Bitcoin, in my wallet like within 30 minutes.
Nice.
And then Bitcoin ripped like another 20-25%. So this is the kind of run that this is the kind of run good that's been happening in the last couple of months, and it's just been
the NBA World Cup playoffs are gonna just destroy us.
Yes,
like you're gonna go. Like I know I'm 0 for 14 this week, but it has to turn around. I know basketball.
Yeah, you're gonna be yearning for the days of Japanese baseball. In a few months.
Yeah. The real treat is I managed not to liquidate all my Bitcoin by doing like leverage trading out of boredom. That was the real discipline. A younger me would have taken all my winnings in Bitcoin and tried to leverage it around the halvening, and I probably would have given it all back. So that's been nice.
All right. Now with like so much uncertainty on whether seasons are going to start or not, I know that they want to, but who knows? I know the NFL's like your big thing, that your podcast is quite centered around it, even during the off season. So, have you guys already started talking amongst yourselves and with the groups that you have on like how you're gonna price like games without fans, and like if there's like certain teams you think will be more affected with no fans than others? Like, I'm guessing you've got some kind of outline, or you've started some kind of discussion about that with your group, right?
We've been a little back and forth on this, and man, this might be controversial. I almost am going to upgrade home field, and I'm not. Like that's hyperbole. But like, man, I mean, this was like half hour ago. Somebody posted an infographic about hotel travel and like how they're going to sit down, and I mean, they're like UV lighting your luggage, giving you all these bags to put everything in. Like it looked like the process of checking into a hotel is going to take an inordinate amount of time compared to normal. And the same thing is going to happen with travel when you board planes, when you board anything else. Unless something changes drastically, travel and lodging in a strange city is going to be a shitload more time. And I really don't think fans play that big of a part in home field advantage. They do play a part, but as far as if you want to, I mean, like the standard 3 points in the NFL, like the fans are like half a point. Like a lot of it's just being in an unfamiliar place and the travel, the time, not getting the extra practices and reps because you have to travel. And if travel is that much worse, man, I don't know if I'm downgrading home field just because there's no fans. Yeah. It's going to be weird. Hopefully they do. I don't know if you guys caught that Bundesliga match where they pipe in the sound. Like they better.
I heard about that. I didn't see it, but I heard about that.
It was way better than watching stuff without any because I've watched soccer matches where this sucks. Like this is how we are in the world, but they've had soccer matches where there's no fans because the fans are just too naughty. Like they're like usually just racist shit. Like they're doing bad stuff. They said, all right, for these two teams in Italy, like we're not having fans or whatever. And it's eerie just watching that stuff without fans. It always has been. So when they did the piping and the sound, like that was really awesome. I thought it made it feel kind of normal. So hopefully they do that for NFL.
Yeah, I don't know why I just thought of this. Probably just because I finished watching It's Always Sunny, but it reminds me of the episode where they're recording the moms in the house with the laugh track in the background.
Yes.
I don't know. That's what when you said pumping the sound, that's what made me think of that.
I think they're gonna have to pump in the sound because I don't think you want to catch what the players are saying to each other with a hot mic on an NFL field on an average Sunday. No. I don't know. I agree with your take. I think you probably get to see a lot more same day travel. There's probably going to be a lot more. If you're playing an afternoon game in Chicago, then you're traveling from Green Bay. You're not going to go a day early. You're going to go that morning. There'll be a lot more of that type of stuff than what we are used to seeing. I think, and I do agree that that's going to negatively impact the visiting teams. Similarly, I think where you used to get some home field advantage from the fans was just because of referee bias.
Yeah.
And I feel like the NFL has been pushing so hard to eliminate that from the game in general. Like look no further back than the refs swallowing the whistle on the PI play in the Superdome in the NFC title game 2 years ago. Like they have really done a legit attempt to reduce home field bias on the refereeing, and that's. So I don't even think you're really going to lose that much, that whatever is left there. That said, there probably are teams that, took more chances with, intentionally committing pass interference like the Patriots, where now if it's, if you're not in Gillette, maybe those are called a little bit more aggressively, on that team, on the home team. So I could see it impacting teams like the Patriots negatively. But not, and maybe teams like the Seahawks too, because they definitely seem to get something out of the crowd, at least in the primetime games. That lifted them up.
Yeah, and you could see the false starts that, I don't know the the number, but I think they get a lot more false starts on the opponents because of the noise and not having the timing of the snap count and all that because the noise is just so deafening.
Yeah, there's some crowds that are more important than others.
Yeah,
Like a good loud dome crowd, that does make it difficult for the offense in certain situations, especially if depending on the offense too. You get Jared Goff in a loud dome, and you might not be able to hear his nookie blankie coming in from the sidelines. So there'll be issues. There'll be issues.
That's a good point.
Like, and to Drew's point, I think like the ref bias, that's where the fans came in. Like, it wasn't like, oh man, these fans are really yelling at us. I don't know if I can make the tackles today. Like, I think the fans affect the refs more than the players. And yeah, I like the point about same day travel too. I hadn't thought about that, but God, in the first place, you don't really want to spend extra days at the Appleton, Red Roof Inn or wherever they stay for Packers games.
Yeah, and I remember I'm a 49ers fan, and there was a couple years ago where they played in the Harbaugh days. They were playing like Washington and then somebody else, and they just decided to stay out east. And I'm like wondering, is that going to become a thing where if you have back-to-back road games, are you just going to like stay out there and not worry about like the travel, there's things to consider.
So supposedly there were like 4 or 5 teams that requested that this year.
Like back-to-back road games?
Yeah, there were.
Supposedly that's a thing. Like that, I don't think that's like it's just not something we've heard about before. I guess that was a thing in the past, and all of a sudden we hear about it. That blew my mind.
Yeah, same. But it leaked who requested it, and there were at least 4 teams: Niners, Patriots, Jets, I think, and then maybe 1 or 2 others where they requested for instance, the Patriots got at the Rams, at the Chargers, back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
Right. So they're just going to stay in LA. Right. And I think they even got them on a Sunday and a Thursday. Right. So they even got a shortened trip out of it, which is kind of crazy, but so be it. And what we know, I hold this as like a lesson learned from last year. And I don't know if Andy feels as strongly. Maybe he does. But I feel like we saw a clear a second road game when you stay as a team and practice together for a full week. We saw like true, like solid game planning effort. Everyone was in sync. Everything clicked. Like some of the standout outlier good team performances last year were teams on week 2 of a back-to-back roadie where they had stayed across the country. The immediate one that comes to mind is week 2 for San Francisco. Instead of going back from Tampa Bay to San Francisco and then San Francisco to Cincinnati, they stayed the weekend in Youngstown, Ohio, or something like that, and got like a great week of practice and came out on Sunday and just absolutely blew the doors off the Bengals. Week 2, the Saints did it with Teddy Bridgewater in Seattle after they lost Drew Brees to injury. In LA, they went up to Seattle, spent the week up there, got an absolutely perfect game plan. All 3 units played their 100th percentile, 99th percentile kind of games, and they covered and won convincingly as like 4 or 5 point dogs. I think, and just from memory, I feel like there is something to be said now of there's probably a bet on angle when a team gets kind of a concentrated week of focused practice in before a game.
Okay.
I wonder if Bo Pelini had anything to do with that game. I can't rule it out when they did, because I think it was Youngstown they went to.
I think it was too. Like
that's something we've spent. God, we spend more time on that some weeks than a lot of stuff. I think, like just going through Instagrams, going through Twitters, looking at like official players' social media, asking around, trying to figure out some of the travel plans when. Maybe in our minds, best case of action would be to, divert and stay somewhere else or stay on a certain coast and not travel back home. And especially, too, when you do get to the international games,
London
which
games,
might not be a
time.
problem this year. I don't think we'll have those this year. But like when we did have international games, there was pretty actionable angles on that. Sometimes, like, oh, this team's stupid. Like they don't know what they're doing. And the other
same day travel
there,
from Chicago to London, and they get off the bus and they're like zombies.
Yeah,
that was insane. The Bears were so bad in the first half of that London game against the Raiders last year, and it was because they traveled late, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that they had traveled so late. I remember listening to that game on the radio and being like, "How are they losing so badly to the Raiders?" And this is the first time I even knew that. So, okay, so let's transition. This is sort of a meta topic since we're doing a podcast and you guys are on a podcast. I had to have a topic about podcast life, and I didn't realize you guys had so many episodes until I looked at your Twitter handle for the podcast. It's like, you guys are in like the 200s. I'm like, holy shit. And I'll be honest, like I don't listen to any podcasts. I don't even listen to my own. So I listen. I think I've caught a lot of your halftime stuff, but I've never actually listened to a full podcast until recently. And I was like, holy, 200 some podcasts. So what got you guys into recording?
Well, Drew, you should tell the meet cute.
Back in the day, we used to listen to the Bebo Knows podcast, and then we would compare notes after, and we would be like, "Well, that was an interesting point, but I didn't agree with that." And we were like, it was a whole thing.
I think he's drunk.
And and then
you're talking about me.
Yeah, and then there was,
that's what we used when we'd watch the old Bebos.
And then there was a vacuum where there was no new content coming out of the Bebo Knows podcasting space, and so we were like, you know what, let's give this a try. In seriousness though, there just really wasn't. When we started the deep dive, it was August of 2018, I believe. Sorry, 2017. We were
so young.
We're coming up on year 3. August of 2017. There were really no gambling-focused NFL podcasts except for Todd Furman and Payne Insiders, which was pretty brutal in my opinion. I didn't get anything out of that. And so we, in the off season, were like, you know what? Let's just see if anyone wants to listen to two people who are just interested in betting NFL, talk about the games, talk about the handicapping angles, and see if this is a thing. Recorded one, put it up, and got 500 listens, and we were like, holy! I was surprised. I was like, how in the hell, people actually want to listen to this?
That's some decent numbers. That's not bad.
Yes, and I don't know if it was just because it was a novelty. It was the first time we did one, and people were curious what we had to say, because we talked about just random, NFL nonsense, in August before we even got to preseason week 1. And so we were like, okay, well, how should we do this? Well, let's do one a week. Let's talk, let's do division previews throughout the summer, and then let's do one every week. And the first 4 or 5 weeks of doing it, I noticed for sure myself that trying to come up with an explanation as to why I liked or why I was going to bet or why I had placed a bet on a side or a total without coming up with a description of it was it gave me either confirmation bias or pointed out that holy shit, I don't really have a good reason why I did this. I just did it because I did it for a stupid reason, right? So it kind of pointed out my own flaws in my process, I thought, talking through it.
Do you remember that conversation?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I don't know how deep we were into that first year, but it's hey, are you doing a lot better at NFL this year than you did last year?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, I think it's because you can't just we're betting less like assholes because we have to make salient points for our plays.
Right. And the year before, I would have sprayed 15 plays on a given week. And early in that season, I was like, oh, I got 15 sides and totals. And you were like, that's insane. There's no way you have an edge on all those.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I do. And then I'm like, well, maybe I do. And I'm like, well, I definitely
Oh, wait, no, I don't.
A lot of these. Yeah. And so I think probably by week 8 or 9, it had really kind of honed my process down to where, if I didn't have a good numbers based or a good a good fundamental handicapping angle that supported what I was betting, from that I could explain on a podcast, then I wouldn't bet it. And so it really helped me improve my performance, my process. And it's just fun. Like, it's just fun as hell talking about, NFL betting and stuff. And we started doing one early in the week where we recap what happened, talk about the bad beats and the lucky covers, and what was lucky and what was the correct outcome. Who's heating up, who's cooling off, what futures are worth getting involved in. So there were infinite angles that we could talk about, and it was also fun then to bring on guests, explore some ask questions, try to learn and get better, and I'd say goal one and benefit one was definitely like, let's improve my process as an NFL bettor, and then that came through. I think goal two was then, okay, well, let's make broader connections in the community and kind of learn more about the industry, because at the time I really had no clue how anything worked, and so that was hugely a huge step in kind of learning about the industry, was having smart people on and talking to them before and after the podcast and getting insight. I'm sure a lot of the people that you've talked to, similar to the type of people we talk to, if you have experience in the space, it's invaluable, and you can learn a lot from those folks. And so I feel like it kind of accelerated my growth, just going through that. And then just three of the it's just fun as hell to talk about football and debate handicapping. And
it never feels like work, like, oh no, man,
for sure, no.
I've had a long day, or like, oh man, I didn't do so good in the NFL, I don't even want to do a podcast tonight. Like, it's always just like, yeah, I want to sit down and talk football. Drew, it's what we do every Sunday night. It's fun, especially the pre and post with some of the guests. Like, there have been several guests that we've had. We do like an hour and 20-minute podcast, but we have like a 4-hour call.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, like, we really killed the night. Or even just, when it's just you and I doing the Sunday night one before we get on, it's like, oh, here's like 3 things I'm going to bet already. And, when you agree with a couple, I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. And it's fun to sit there on a Sunday night and make a couple bets, and maybe even watch them move your way a touch, which is even better. So it is, because we love NFL so much. We always have this conversation like, man, what are we going to talk about this week, or are we going to be able to fill time? And then you look and it's been like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Nice. Now with all the podcasts that you guys do, I know, like I said, that you guys focus a lot on NFL. Do you guys worry about giving away like the edges that you do have when you're recording these? Because I know a lot of them are informational, but at the same time, if it could affect your bottom line by giving away something that, maybe, I mean, obviously NFL is probably the hardest market to beat, I'm guessing, in general, but even if you do have a microscopic edge, do you worry about losing that with like all the content that you guys produce?
Yes.
Maybe not in the NFL as much. The NFL is so hard to begin with.
Yeah.
I think for sure, though, that there were a couple of tried and true betting angles that were not priced into the market correctly 2 years ago that are now. And is that a direct result of just hammering that point home in the betting community, week in, week out, talking about it? Maybe. It also could just be kind of just the general IQ of the betting community has gone up, and the market absorbs the information. I'm betting into it too. You know what I mean? Like, there's kind of and I could probably talk about this for like a half hour. I'm curious what Andy's thoughts are, so I'm going to try to keep my points concise and hear a little bit of what Andy has to say about this. But there's a two-edged sword to kind of losing an edge, in my opinion. One is, you can lose an edge by telling someone about it, and then they beat you to market with that information, right? Or you can lose an edge by betting it as hard as you can, as many outs as you can, and just effectively training the market into who has value and who doesn't have value at any given time, right? And even if they don't know what your true angle is, even if they don't have whatever data set you're using to bet into, like the market catches up eventually. Like there's too many participants. It's too efficient, and so there's really no like. Yeah, I mean, maybe there are a couple still exist that are like kind of true golden angles, right? That the market just is not capturing, and you can waltz into at the very end of the market cycle, and you can get a limit bet down, on something that is truly plus EV, and no one knows. But if you're betting into it at some point in time, the market's moving with you. It'll eventually will be figured out, and whether you're doing that and actively spilling your guts at the same time and giving away the secret sauce, or it's just a factor of the market participants figure out at the same time that you are that it eventually gets softer. And I don't think for sure stuff like back-to-back travel in the NFL, stuff like extra rest on between Thursday and Monday, stuff rest advantages and situational spots used to have actual numerical edge to them, and a lot of them don't anymore. And I don't know that I wouldn't have the balls to say it's because we've beat it into the market as much as it's just the market gets more efficient over time, and we're betting into it as well. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, and I mean there'll always be new edges, or it's never like the market's going to completely figure everything out. So I mean, hopefully we can always find new edges. I think that's the fun of the, like, I don't want to call it a game, but it kind of is. Like, that's the fun part, is hunting for new edges, looking back at some of the plays, or looking back at what we thought was going to happen in games, deep diving on box scores. What do we call box score autopsy?
Oh, yeah.
Looking back and, trying to figure out where we were right, where you're wrong, and seeing, like, legitimately, are we dead wrong about this angle? Is this something dumb we should be not looking at? Is it so wrong it's actually right in the opposite direction? Like we've completely spun around on things. So
for sure.
It's just a lot of fun trying to find those new angles, because I mean you're right. It's not us, it's everybody. Everybody is destroying these the angles that work out. They go away after a while, and it sucks, especially if some of them are halfway easy.
Yeah, I guess the two conversations that stick out, one we had with Cheetah, and it was about creating daily content for ESPN, right? Because that was something that I was thinking about it at the time myself. Like my experience with NBA last year was pretty rough. It was ups and downs, and I think a lot of it was me kind of training the market on certain angles that I was betting especially hard. And I was trying to get a sense from him, like, how do you create a daily show where you have actionable information, but that it doesn't like get washed into the market like exceptionally fast because you're putting it in front of 400,000 eyeballs, like what, how does this work? Like, and he was basically kind of, without kind of saying it specifically, I got the sense that it was like, you always have to grind a new one out. Like they have to be dynamic. You have to be flexible. You can't expect that what works today is going to work in 2 weeks, 2 months, or a year. You have to know how to evaluate when your angle has been absorbed. You don't want to find out the hard way that it's gone. Like you have to have the right checks and balances in your own process to know that, this angle only lasted 2 games, this one 6 games, this one 10 games, right? You have to, the best handicappers out there, the people who win long term, I think they don't just have one thing that works and it always works, because eventually the market learns and catches up. And if it catches up to you and you've gotten lazy, if your process has gotten stale, if you are only counting on one thing, then I think you're going to get your ass. You're going to lose your ass.
Yeah, and as I say, the way you phrased that just made me think of like when somebody has like a really good season, let's say like Lamar Jackson, and if he's gonna maintain his success, he can't just keep doing what he's doing. Obviously, he's very athletic, so he's always gonna have that. But he's gonna have to adjust to the adjustments that the league makes on him. So it's kind of a similar thing where you can't just like settle on your success from last year. You could have had a good season last year, but those same tricks and trades, whatever phrase I'm looking for there, aren't going to work the same as they did last year when you might have had, a little edge on something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's kind of if you fall into the category eventually where you think you have a golden angle and you just get lazy and that's all you're playing and you're not like honing your handicapping skill beyond that, like you might as well stop doing this because you're eventually it'll be gone, right? Even if it's just a beautiful, perfect betting angle that no one is capturing, it's printing money, right? Eventually that will dry up. And if you got to be able to pivot. You have to be dynamic. You always, to a degree, you're more likely to have longevity as a sports bettor if you are able to kind of read and evaluate the market than if you are able to build a perfect algorithm that works and doesn't adapt and isn't dynamic, isn't learning.
Sure.
Yeah, too long didn't read. Don't be lazy. It kind of all boils down to that. Like you said, like edges don't last. Always be grinding, finding new edges, looking for new soft markets, and you'll probably end up making some money in the long run. But if you spend the time, find an edge, and just try to ride it into the sunset for 10 years, shit ain't gonna last.
It lasts 4 weeks.
You're gonna give it back. Yeah.
Yes. I know Alan Boston's not gonna watch this, but like someone like him doesn't seem like a guy who like adjusts. Like if you've listened to my podcast with him, he seems like he likes the way he did things before. And maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't dive into it as much. But he strikes, and I think he's even admitted on the podcast or maybe even on Twitter that like. He was humble enough to know that like he's kind of lost the edge that he had back, 20 or 30 years ago.
I think it's a little different with Alan. I think his process is like he knows more about what the true ratings of every team ought to be to start the season than the market knows in general. And so he has a window of time early in the season where he can probably just absolutely light the world on fire. And then eventually his action, he is training the betting. People know like, oh, this is Alan Boston stuff. Like, no, like that doesn't, that gets around. People know who's betting Alan Boston stuff. And so you can see like, oh, he obviously thinks that, Lipscomb is undervalued this year. Right. Like, it doesn't take but, 2-3 weeks before everybody's pounding Lipscomb. Right. Like that's the kind of
sounds filthy. I thought he just did most of it on coaching and like who's doing the most to preserve bears. Like I love bears. I love Alan, but
I feel like his highs and lows, his roller coaster probably has more to do with the fact that like he's got it better than anyone else early in the season just because of either the prep he puts into it, his process is that much better in terms of evaluating who's incoming, who's outgoing.
Sure.
He knows the coaches better. That's
for
sure is true. So he probably looks at a good coach, sees the talent that he got, and can put 2 and 2 together faster than everyone else. Right? Like that's probably a huge part of his angle. The problem is by January, the numbers are sharp. And it's based on him informing the market, right? Like it's probably that same cycle goes on every year, and I would imagine that drives you crazy.
Okay, all right. Well, one more podcast topic here. Well, actually, 2 more. The first one was actually a listener question. Somebody was asking about if you guys ever considered a college football focus, and why or why not.
Boy, we'd have to like quit our jobs. There's so many teams. Like I'm at the place where I don't think we'll have baseball this year. I think we'll have an NBA playoff season. They'll figure something out with the NHL. The NFL will soldier on no matter what because they don't give a shit. And I'm 50-50 on college football being around this fall. So like it's funny because this was the year I was gonna do it. Like I said, man, I see all my connections on here, a lot of them are really crushing college football, especially early in the season. The people that put in the work, have their own set of power rankings, have done the research, they've wrangled the data, and they've assembled their numbers, and they kill it early in the season because they're just better at it than the market. And I feel like with some of their input and me doing some of my own work, I could really do well in college football. And then I just completely shelved it because I'm not sure we're gonna have college football. So maybe we will eventually. I know a lot of really smart college football bettors. I mean, some of them maybe not even bettors. I know some people just write really good content for it. I mean, they bet it too. I guess everyone I know bets it, but I'd love to eventually. But this year has kind of thrown a wrench into that whole sprocket, I guess.
So random side thing. I guess we've done a bunch of these, but do you like when you're reading the content of somebody who writes something about NFL or college football or whatever sport? Like, how much more do you respect their opinion if you know that they're betting it?
Well, massively.
The most amount.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. The people who are putting out betting content who don't have skin in the game, you can see them a fucking mile away.
Yeah,
it is so obvious and it is embarrassing. Like it's literally like, what are you doing? Like, why what do you think you're doing here? Like, you don't have any skin in this. Like, what are you trying to do here? The genuine, you can't fake the genuine at risk kind of the emotional highs and lows that go along with this sort of stuff if you're not putting money at risk, I don't think. And I don't even think you especially have to be betting big in order to have a valid opinion either. But for sure, you have to at least be doing it.
It goes back to what we said about. I want to say there's levels of that. Like when we said, "Are you getting better at betting NFL because of this podcast?" Yes, because like we couldn't just bet like jackanapes because we were putting our opinion out there, and that's a certain level. And then if you actually are, putting money on it as well, like that's a whole nother level. Because if I just said, here's some teams I think that'll win this weekend, and they don't do well, like a couple people might give me shit or razz me on Twitter, or what's the worst thing can happen? But like if I put my opinion out there and I put my money behind it, that might happen. Plus I lose money. Plus I'm tilted. Like, putting your money behind something. I hate to quote. God, was it Schwimmer who said it, or was it the people talking to him?
Put your money
where your mouth is.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, it does make a difference in my mind as well. It's like they're not just putting BS to a page, trying to get to a word count to sell an article to some crappy website so they can get $30. They're actually, like, you can tell when people bet or not.
Absolutely. And to kind of put a pin on the college football conversation, like when you get started doing this, you don't know what you don't know, obviously. And I did not know that I was a bad college football bettor. I didn't have any concept of what it took to be good at college football betting, but I had watched enough watched enough NFL over the years, had a good enough understanding of the game, had a good enough understanding of the players and their strengths and weaknesses that it wasn't hard to kind of be decent at NFL kind of out of the gate. College football, and then like the other thing I learned really quick is I would only spend 10-ish% of my week handicapping college football and 90% of my week handicapping the NFL because I like it more, and that absolutely showed up in the results. And so
enjoying it helps.
Yeah, and so I'd bet a bunch on Saturday, go 3-6 or whatever, give back a bunch of money, and then my balance would be smaller on Sunday. It would mess with my process, and then I realized, wait, I should be getting down earlier in the week on NFL before the lines move, and I'm spending all my time on NFL, and it just became like pretty clear to me that there was a losing proposition to try to do both, so I had to pick
How
one.
good were we at tailing people though? Do you remember last year?
No, that's
God, we kind of crushed college football.
Yeah, that's
quietly.
turned into a skill. You let someone else do the work, and you join the party.
So it's not like we weren't betting everything they were betting. It's like we were cherry picking and somehow just getting stupid lucky. And there was like a 3-week window there where we did really well at college football, and then I just got too busy to do too much of it. But like, it's fun to win when you didn't do any work. Like, I wish that was the case always.
So that's a great transition into the next area here, where I had some random sports betting topics / questions, and one of them was the power of betting with groups. And I know you guys have referenced this a few times, and I think it was either one of your podcasts or maybe I just read it somewhere about your about the networking aspect of the betting. So how have you guys utilized that to your advantage? Like over the years.
I think it's massively important to kind of it's hard enough as it is to get 52%, 53% winners, right? And if for sure you're never going to be good enough across all sports to kind of make money doing this if you're doing it by yourself. But if you are focusing on certain things and sharing your information, you're going to attract people who are focusing on other things and sharing their information. And networking in that way is hugely valuable and has really kind of helped my overall performance year in, year out. I would say what you want ideally is to have access to liquidity, and would that be it credit or actual funds in an account, such that when the true absolute best most plus EV stuff out there finds its way to you, right? And you almost certainly will have those type of opportunities to just hit an absolute slam dunk on something if you have kind of a network built, if you have outs like that. And 53% over the course of the season, but one or two kind of absolute slam dunks mixed in, like, can absolutely do a ton for your bottom line. Yeah, it can do a ton for your bottom line over.
It's a slam dunk.
It's a slam dunk.
It's a done deal.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, wasn't that question about networking? Like, I don't even know where you were going with that. I love it.
Because like you want to network because like somebody comes on and they're like, hey, this is a really bad price on something that you have never thought about in your life. You're not even paying attention to that market. But guess what? You happen to have a balance in that book, in that you have access to that line, and you can hit it too, right? Like that sort of stuff comes up. Division III, college football, right? Like just random ass stuff that's just wildly mispriced. Like if you can hit the true massive plus EV stuff that comes across your radar, you can do a huge impact on your bottom line over the course of the year.
Bigly.
No,
I almost take it the whole opposite. I don't want to say like the opposite direction. Maybe the opposite direction for me. I'd say my network of people, including you, and I mean people I talk to every day, especially once NFL season gets going, have probably talked me out of more losers than they've fed me winners. Like that's huge.
Yeah,
losers
that's
cost juice.
That's great. Yeah,
that's a good point.
And you know what? I'll be completely honest. Like the one thing that recording this over the years has made me realize is that I'm a terrible bettor, so I don't bet as much as I used to, and that's actually a good thing. I mean,
you want to learn that.
Because I don't have any. I mean, I have my contacts through doing all this recording, but I've never taken the time to invest in designing a model or anything like that, or like. Just never. I don't know if it's the time or just being lazy or just not having the knowledge of it, but that's like you said, like you just made a point, Andy. That's just as valuable too. Like if this podcast saves some people like a couple $100 that they would have spent donking away at a book, like I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for a sports betting podcast to do. Like if you're telling somebody, hey, this isn't something that you want to do, like thinking that you're going to win long term. Like most people don't win long term. So, and I'm not. I'm a terrible bettor, so that's why I don't bet much.
Yeah. Well, keeping a loser off is better than adding a winner.
I like the winner part better.
Most losers cost $110.
I like the winner part better. I like.
I know. I love
our
both
buddy
parts.
To drop a nugget like, hey, this Cactus Tour matchup between this 15-year-old girl and this 19-year-old girl is plus 105, and it should be minus 200, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that I live for. Like those types of those types of nuggets that come across our radar in our circle of friends are fucking great. They're great.
I'm agreeing. Like those are electric. Like just free winners they never hurt when you talk to the right, or just good information. Like, hey, just passing this on. But I think my point was more of early in the week when we just all throw our information together and be like, hey, here's what I'm seeing in this game. And then someone brings up another point. It's like, yeah, that's true. But
valid, yeah,
that's true. But, and then you're like, oh shit, that is true. But like, maybe I don't like that anymore. And that's how I whittle things down. I always gave you a hard time about betting way too many NFL games early on. I mean, that's how I was the year before. Like, I was making way too many NFL bets. So,
well, think about our tennis network too. Like, you're never going to watch all 64 round one matches of the French Open, right? But we have 20 guys watching, and so for sure, someone in there is going to have seen something, and you're like, oh man, I really like why is PCB a dog in this one? And it's like, oh, I was watching his match yesterday, and he picked up an injury in the fourth set, right? Like those types of things. You have more eyes across more matches in tennis, across more games in a given sport you're handicapping. You're going to get that information stuff that makes a difference.
See, I like tennis is big, yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of what you guys talk about more than actually practicing it, like the chasing of the money. Like, I like the idea of what you guys are doing to try and work with these groups, but like I just don't have the energy these days to be doing that. So
it's a time suck.
More power to you.
It's fun though too.
Yeah. So there was actually one podcast thing that I left off. It was a question that you added at the end, and it was like a podcast guest that you've never had before that you're looking to snag on your podcast. Is there someone you have in mind?
Yeah, obviously, it's Doris Burke, right, Andy?
Doris Burke. I made the Doris Burke joke earlier.
Oh yeah,
I don't know why I picked her.
We forgot to chime
seriously,
in. With...
I was Andy. Who do you got?
I mean, a lot of our dreams have come true. We've had pro bettors like Preston and Rufus and Pizzola. I mean, when we started the podcast, we'd be like, would you have ever thought we'd have some legitimate professional bettors?
No.
They're the guys that are actually putting themselves out there. It's different from the guys that don't make it known that they're professional bettors. They're kind of working in the shadows. So I mean, they're more apt to do some media, but that's pretty cool in of itself.
Yeah,
we've got some pretty cool legitimate pros. I think more of that would be cool. I don't know if I'd ever want to have like an actual pro athlete on, man. It's a gambling podcast. That's still a little line crossing to me. Like, hey,
yeah,
do you ever just dog it at the end? And
I bet
do you know what the spread is?
I bet you Dan Patrick has some good stories from the ESPN days. Those guys were all betting.
Oh yeah, any of those guys. Van Pelt.
Betting.
Yeah, I guess Van Pelt would probably be mine now that you're mentioning it.
I think Van Pelt's a small stakes guy, and I don't know if he was as aggressive as the guys that were in the generation ahead of him. But I would love to talk to those guys about sports betting.
Yeah, he at least has an idea of sports betting, like where you could talk to him, like mano a mano, and
yeah, he knows what's going on at least. Yeah. There's a guy that just got out of prison I wouldn't mind having on.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, could you get anything out of him though? Like, would that be a good interview?
No, it probably wouldn't be.
There's a couple of guys though in the gambling Twitter space who are advantaged players and who would have some great stories for sure. Dan Check Shoved would be a good interview. I'd like to talk to him at some time. He was he has some old school gambling Twitter stories that I'm sure we could reminisce about. That would be fun.
Maybe Clay Travis.
He'd probably be the last choice. In fact, if there were one,
we'd have Sizzle on way
eliminate
before
from
Clay.
Sports. It would be Clay Travis. That would be the easy answer on that. The other Diggs seems like he has a really good NFL kind of point of view. I would really like to talk to him at some point in time.
That's the weird part about gambling Twitter when you get to know like what's actually going on, and you think some of these people are just turds on here to be turds. Like you just here's some guy with like a couple hundred followers who just always ends up getting retweeted or I see him around, and you find, it's a lot of these Seaville guys, and they're like, oh, some of these guys are just shithead trolls, and it's like, oh no, like Diggs is a legitimate good, a good better.
I think
he's an advantage player.
I think
like
that's
Brett
Vegas.
Favre, a few of those guys. It's like, man, you wouldn't know it if you didn't know it.
Yeah,
it's
like
kind of wild how some of those guys.
Both those guys would be high on the list.
For sure.
I think Diggs is Vegas watch, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. That's what I've never actually asked anybody about that, but I think that's who that is, because Vegas Watch hasn't tweeted much lately, and then that account appeared with the random uppercase, lowercase letters in the handle.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I know that's they all have a couple accounts. That's the tough part.
The other thing that's like, we're kind of latecomers to the game, which makes we're at a disadvantage in terms of just the
we're new money.
We're new.
We're not even money.
No, but it's true. Like, we weren't ever on the forums and stuff like that. Like, that's a disadvantage. Like, I never worked for a bookmaker. I never was a bookie. Like, I feel like those are the kind of the blind spots and holes. And I'd really every time we talked to Professor Shine. We did like a full hour.
That was a good one too.
That was a great one. We talked to him for like a good 2 hours before we even got into
He's a good
NFL
dude.
Handicapping, and that was some of the most interesting discussions we've had with anyone.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, Shine was great.
We need more old people like that. Like, I don't want to like not just old. That was mean, but
just people with experience.
Older.
Like, that's
experience.
It's so valuable, and obviously, like, you don't want to, like, I'm sure a lot of them are conscientious of giving away, the secrets of the trade to a degree, but they have a point of view that's worth hearing, I think. So I'll keep trying to pursue those guys.
Yeah, no, and that when you say experience, it just reminds me of like the days where I would do the parlays, like you said, and it would be like 3 or 4 3-point road favorites in the NFL, and they like all lost. And I was just like, but these teams are much better. How are they all losing? This doesn't make any sense.
Oh yeah.
But
excellent.
Okay, so let's. I'm gonna skip the other random betting topic. I want to go into the summer drinking and grilling season here. That was one of my topics that I enjoyed writing up here. So as far as I guess it's officially summer with Memorial Day, even though it's not the meteorological summer, but it's summer more or less. And so you got your summer beers, you got your summer food, you got all that. So what are your go-to plans/drinks when you're grilling, or your go-to what you make on the grill? I know you were talking about kielbasa or something, Andy. I think on your last podcast, I think.
The one from Goodfellas, in the scene where they're all in the backyard and Paulie, and they have that spirally one, like the Italian people eat. I don't even know what it's called. I want that sausage. I got to go to like an Italian butcher or something, or I don't know. My butcher, man, I had some problems with the butcher this weekend. They didn't have a couple things I wanted. I don't know, and I took it easy on them because I don't know if it's just Corona shortages, but I did not get my tomahawk. I was pretty pissed about that.
Oh, really?
That sucks.
Yeah, because I love just holding that giant. The kids think it's so funny, like that you have this giant chunk. Yeah. Looks like the meat they put in the Flintstones car. But I did have a nice, the one grocery store I go to, they have prime beef. I always get a prime New York. I love that. My daughter, we felt kind of bad because she doesn't get to have she hasn't got to go to school forever, so she doesn't get to see her friends or have like a graduation. So I said she likes steak now. That's her thing. So I said I'd grill her. So I made a fillet for her, and we did some. I mean, it was not an unmitigated disaster because I was able to get some of the food I wanted, and I drank a shitload of margaritas and gin over the weekend.
Nice.
The wife has gotten into this Sam Adams porch rocker, and I don't think she can't get it in just a case, so she just buys these giant 24 packs of Sam Adams summer sampler, so to get six of the beer she wants. I don't think she can find the 6-pack.
I just googled that. I didn't never heard of that. It's like a Rambler of some sort.
Yeah. So she drinks those 6, and I drink the other 18.
It seems like
that's
the
one she likes. It is gin season.
Seems like a good 3-to-1 ratio there.
It's clear liquor season. That's right.
So what about you, Whale? I know we were talking about it a little bit before the podcast, but what's your summer routine?
I'm a super seasonal drinker for sure. Like certain times of the year, I'm craving certain stuff. Right now, I'm in a heavy-duty gin and tonic mode because, as Andy mentioned, it is clear liquor season. I'm coming off of Negroni season. Did a lot of Negronis in the spring. Huge Negroni fan. And that's something that's easy to make at home because it's just 1-1-1 gin. Good, get a good gin, Campari, and Carpano.
Yeah, you just look at that one.
Yeah, 1-1-1, boom, 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 so that it's been a good Negroni season. It's now officially a gin and tonic season, and it's beach. You're going to be in a bathing suit a lot. You're going to be at grills. You're going to be at pool parties and stuff in the summertime. So it helps keep some of the extra weight off if you're doing gin and tonic relative to just housing.
You mean this?
Housing.
You mean this?
High alcohol by volume beers.
You mean this?
Yeah, housing 18 beers.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I get into the beers in the fall for sure, I like the tropical drinks too, for sure. Like anything, there's a couple of really good tiki books. Goddamn, I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote them, but there's a couple of really outstanding, rum-based cocktails you can make, Mai Tai type of stuff that I drink a lot in the summertime. And,
rum's for pirates.
Yeah. As far as grills go, I've been eyeing on a huge upgrade. There's this company made in America, forged steel. Engelbrecht is the name of the company, and they make this grill that has a wheel on it, so you can raise and lower the cooking surface to get exactly the right temperature. It's got a whole an ash box, so you can smoke on the side, easy to clean up. And just absolutely, beautiful, but it's expensive. So I've been saving up to get down with the new Engelbrecht Braten Grill,
everybody's got like their Traegers and their green eggs, and I'm just so old. Like I've grilled on Traegers and they're awesome, but I'm just so old school. I do everything just
all charcoal
and wood. I have I just have a bunch of I have a couple Webers, and then I have my Weber Smoky. What is it? Silver Bullet, Smoky Mountain, whatever. Like I'm so used to it, and I'm good at maintaining the temps I want. And honestly, having that Bluetooth thermometer thing, that makes a huge difference. If you can just go inside and monitor it, and your phone will beep if it gets out of range. But we did have there was a little shit talking on Twitter about my grilling, and I had to throw my wife under the bus. I put the big list together, and I said, "You're in charge of liquor," and she ended up going to Costco, because you can buy giant bottles of liquor there for cheap. And she texts me, "Hey, I got shrimp too." And Costco meat isn't bad. So I'm like, that's fine. And I get home and it's a big bag of the frozen pre-cooked shrimp. Oh. And I'm like, I said, fuck it. We're grilling it anyway. I'm just gonna char it, heat it up for you. They're gonna be rubbery, but you're fine. You wanted them. And like 4 people called me out. "Hey, those are already cooked, man." I know. Like I was hoping nobody could see it. I should have put it further in the picture. But man, the steaks turned out great. And I didn't even do any. I smoked some wings. I didn't really do any hardcore smoking because I'd done a butt a couple weeks ago, and that's like a 20-hour ordeal.
Now you're talking.
But
that's good.
I know. I seen a bunch of picture of ribs. I'm a big ribs fan. Like I'm definitely probably gonna get some baby back ribs here in the next week or two.
So do you grill those then? Are you a griller of the ribs?
Oh yeah.
Okay, because
I'm always on the grill.
I'm always intimidated by ribs. I've never actually tried ribs, and I don't know if it's because I have like a certain mindset. Like I feel like other people could do it better than me, so I'm either gonna buy them or have somebody else cook them. Mm-hmm. So like that's one that I've never actually tried to make because like I've heard that there's like a science to it, and I just my charcoal grill is like kind of so like I don't maybe if I got a better grill I would feel more confident in it, but like ribs are like one thing that I won't touch grilling wise. Is there anything that
just push all the coals off to one side and just stick it over on the other side. Let them cook slow.
Do you guys have any food that you won't grill? Like you're not like, all right, I'm bad at this, so I'm just gonna like either buy it myself or like wait for somebody else to grill it.
I got really hammered drunk at a party I hosted, and this is cooked versus uncooked stuff. And my wife had bought like fresh brats from the store, which I love fresh brats. But fresh brats take like 20, 25 minutes on the grill because it's raw pork all the way through. And it was getting kind of dark. I didn't realize that's what they were. And I just charred them up hard. And I mean, these things were like raw in the middle. And I mean, I served them to some friends. They're like, Andy, this is like, there's like cold pork in the middle of these. Like, trichinosis. I mean, I was hammered. It was like, I mean, they're burnt on the outside. It evens out. I'm sorry. Like, you should just this will toughen up your immune system.
I've done that a lot. Drinking and grilling can be dicey.
Oh, yeah. Like that's
but I take
the main problem.
I have grilling overconfidence too. I'll take on any challenge, and for sure, I've gotten myself into trouble with pork before. Pork loin. Anything that you're kind of desperate to make sure is not overcooked. Again, if you have the thermometer, you don't have to worry about that sort of
pork. Pork loin. Yeah, the thermometer is king with the pork loin because none of them are the same damn size. So I don't even time it anymore.
Right.
I just have the timer. I do a lot of pork loins in the oven actually. I make some homemade sage stuffing and cook it all. I sear it up on the fry pan at cast iron. Then you jam the whole thing in the oven and just wait for it to beep and eat her up. Like pork sounds good. Oh boy. Yeah, I did some of those brats this weekend, and I maintained the integrity of my grilling mindset, and I cooked them all the way through, and they were good.
Well, we both live next to a state that's known for their brats, so do you get the Johnsonvilles or?
Also, like Hy-Vee, shout out Hy-Vee. I've shouted out Hy-Vee before, haven't I? Like somebody responded to our post about it once. Like, hell yeah, Hy-Vee! Shout out from Kansas City. Like it's a Midwestern grocery store, I guess. But they have like 15 different flavors of fresh pork brats that they make. And they're always like it's always like on sale, 10 for $10. Like, man, they've been on sale for the last 20 years. Like that's just what they cost.
They're just $1.
Yeah,
they're always just $1. That's what they cost, and they're good. So like I'll get those over Johnsonville because they're fresh and they're real good. And they make a pineapple one the wife likes.
Ooh.
Okay,
it's not bad.
So before we move on to some of the listener questions, is there anything that you guys consider yourselves like an expert in, like that you could give like a quick recipe to people on?
Absolutely. Fish taco. I make the best grilled fish tacos you've ever had in your life. Beat the hell out of whatever you can get in San Diego and LA. It's that's my go-to. If I was hosting a party and I wanted to impress people, I would make a grilled fish taco.
Okay. Is it too many details to get into like what it takes to get to that?
The spice rub is the key, really.
Okay.
That's all there is. Then there's some secrets to it, but as long as you get a spice rub and you get an early rub, really get it set into a good flaky white fish, then it's a home run. I haven't had anyone.
What kind of fish do you use?
It depends. I
mahi?
go the fish. Not mahi. Mahi's too thin. You want a thicker.
That's
you want a
fair,
thicker
that's
piece
fair.
of fish. If you can get a fresh cod, oh man, that's a banger. A Pacific cod is good.
Once again, shout out Hy-Vee. Like they sell these giant cod fillets. I've never. Yeah. I guess I have made fish tacos, but most of the time that's a winter thing where we'll beer bread that and deep fry it, beer batter. Oh my god, a big fat piece of cod. Like I can even get the kids to like that.
This is a good tip for you actually. You want a fat piece because if you take if you take like one that's too thin, by the time you need to flip it, it cooks too fast basically. Like you just need it on too low of a heat. It doesn't get quite the flavor. And if you try to flip it too fast, you end up breaking the fish into a billion pieces. So you want a little bit thicker piece, and for sure Pacific cod is the slam dunk.
Get a good fish turner, like that makes a big difference.
You need the long.
It's got a flex.
The long flat fish spatula. That's absolutely crucial.
Huge.
Okay. Anything, Andy, that you consider yourself an expert at with grilling?
I will not be giving any recipes away. I do an asparagus that, oh man, we all love that. The best thing about grilled asparagus is it takes like 2 minutes, maybe like three if they're the thick boys, because that's the best part is like when you grill meat, steak, burger, what have you, like it doesn't need to rest for several minutes after you take it off the grill, juices redistribute, yada yada, and you have these hot coals there. And while the meat's resting, you have your asparagus ready. You spread the coals out a little quick, slap them on there with a bunch of olive oil already and your spices. You let them sit there for a minute or two. You take the whole thing and just roll them. And I mean, maybe a minute and a half on each side tops, and they get this nice char on the outside. They're cooked through, and I mean that's like my go-to vegetable anytime I cook, just because I feel like I'm being more economical. Like, yeah, I'm using the charcoal for like an extra 3 minutes, so it's not as big of a waste because I threw a huge load into the chimney starter, which out of context would sound weird.
So yeah, actually, the only reason I had this topic on here is because I was looking through. I forgot how long I've been following you guys. Like, I honestly lose track on like if I've been following you guys for like a couple years or like 7 or 8 years. So like I was searching like tweets between us, and it was actually you, Whale, that where you were talking about grilling something, and I said like Team Charcoal all the way or something like that. So it seems like you guys are both still on the Team Charcoal side.
Absolutely.
Lump charcoal if possible.
Yeah, it's kind of like it. Like I was just talking to the wife about this earlier today, and I wouldn't mind having a gas like as a side one, only like for like spontaneous things that I want to get done, like a lot quicker, because sometimes you just want to eat like in the next 30 minutes. With charcoal, you have to let it burn for a little while, and
for sure.
So yeah, that part is making me consider getting a second grill, only because like. I don't like waiting sometimes.
I can respect. It's kind of like a dirty little secret, I guess. Like it's like your side piece. Like you don't tell people about the gas grill. You don't bring it to parties. Like you kind of keep it off to the side. But like I mean, you're right. They're convenient. You can grill something up in a hurry. They get hot fast.
Yeah. Okay. We have some listener questions here, and none of them are really like incredibly insightful, but that's fine. That's kind of what we expect from my listeners here. One of them was from Jobo asking if either of your wives listen to your podcast.
I don't think my wife has ever listened to it, and that's fine with me. I think I probably recorded the first 20 before I ever even told her we were doing this.
How do you hide that? How do you hide that?
I think I had a Twitter gambling account with 5,000 followers before I ever told her what I was doing online.
Wow.
I think that's true.
Yeah, no, I went way longer than that. I did it for like a year before I told her I had a podcast. I just told her I was working late. I owned my own business. Like, oh man, paperwork, huh?
Actually, that's one of the other,
Mondays.
That's one of the other funny backgrounds. I totally forgot in telling the origin of the pod story was, like I work in Irvine and live in Long Beach, and if I leave at 5 p.m, it's a brutal rush hour crush to get 20 miles takes an hour and 20 minutes. It's stupid. But it worked out perfect timing wise where I could stay at work, do all of the recording, editing, posting, and then I'm ready to go home, and it's like there's no traffic.
Yeah, the traffic tilts me. Like I'm glad I don't have to deal with that anymore.
No, it's awful. Yeah,
I don't live in a very big city.
Doing the podcast helped in the first place. It was like, I'm just going to be sitting here chatting with people on Twitter anyway, watching sports. Like, might as well be creative in that same time.
Sure. Yeah.
That is funny. I know my wife has never listened to a podcast, much less my podcast. She doesn't have a job where she can. She's a nurse. Some people have jobs where they can have headphones in all the time, or just sitting at their computer listening to stuff. So she, and then I make her watch the kids a lot more than I do. So she's got a pretty busy lifestyle to be listening to podcasts. Her father has listened to a few.
All right.
I know he occasionally he farms, so he has lots of time sitting in the tractor. I know he's I don't know how many he listens to, so maybe shout out Raj.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you guys. Do you guys have a lot of? Do you guys have like a lot? Do you guys post this on like other social media, like on like your Facebook, or presuming you have one?
No.
No. Just Twitter.
No. I don't
Just
have
Twitter.
a Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
But other funny story though is there was like a year. Because I feel like we were a little ahead of the curve in terms of just like two white dudes recording a podcast talking about sports, right? Like because maybe in the year after that, there were like 6 or 8 of them, right? And in our specific niche, and then even beyond that, like it just became a cultural, like popular thing to record a podcast. And so my wife gets endless joy out of embarrassing me at like weddings and parties and stuff. Like, hey, did you know Drew has a podcast? And just absolutely ethering me in front of our friends. Like, yeah, what's it about? It's like sports betting.
I've had this pain. I feel this pain.
She loves it. She loves it because I just squirm. I'm like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, somebody posted a meme on my Facebook when this first began, saying like resist the urge to start a podcast, and I'm like, oh god damn it!
It became uncool because there were too many clowns getting involved. But I think we were just early enough, and we've done enough now at this point that we get some.
We're old guard.
You for sure.
We get a little.
I mean, you started in like 2013, didn't you?
It was like 14 or 15. I was like Hustle Double had a site, and he's got a different handle now. But yeah, I actually started my first podcast was like when my grandma passed away, like that same day. Like I think I'd already had the groundwork for it going on, but it was right around that time. So it was like, yeah, 2014 was I think when I started my site, and yeah, it's been a fun ride. I've gotten to meet a lot of interesting people, and even in person too. That's been probably the biggest joy, is getting to meet some of these people. Have you guys had that joy?
Strongly agree.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
No, that part's cool. That embarrassing part makes me think though too. Like I remember, like it was an employee of mine found out and just teased me, made fun of, and then to this day he listens to all the NFL ones. Like he has become a problem gambler. That's not true. But like, this little SOB is actually really lucky. He makes silly bets all the time. He took the Titans straight up over the Ravens.
Oh,
he's like, I have a feeling. I'm taking the money line. But what? Okay.
Derrick Henry. He's a
dirty little son of a
tractor
bitch.
Cedo. Yeah.
Tractor-Cedo.
See, I love taking those big money lines just for the fuck of it. But
yeah.
All right. So let's see. What's the next listener question here we have from Plus EV Capper? What's it like to have Gambling Twitter's second favorite podcast?
Man,
it's hard to follow the Dream podcast, I suppose.
Yeah, that has
the
to
Dream.
Be,
Yeah,
because it was I can't say it was heavily implied he was talking about me because I'm not really that conceited, but I think he was talking about me. So.
I think that was what he was going for.
Yeah,
he's somebody we talked to quite a bit. Out of all the people we've met, he knows a lot of math. Like that's a useful skill to have in this industry, and he has helped us out immensely with some math problems and just working some things out. I mean, he's such a nice guy as far as that goes. Like I won't even ask. I say, hey, like I can't figure this out. What does this mean? How does this go? And he's like, I just emailed you a spreadsheet. Like, oh, okay.
Plus, it's just great talking to people.
And he's great to talk to.
Yeah, for sure. But honestly, the success of the podcast, the exposure, the number of people that listen to it, like all of that kind of, we're obviously aware of it. I look at it, I keep track of it for sure, but it doesn't it's not part of why we're doing this. I don't think. Like if 50 people were listening to it, would we still be doing this? Probably. Like for all the reasons that we put our time and energy into this, I don't think the number of listeners or the popularity among the gambling Twitter community has any real incentive or motivation for us. Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
man, I might have a hard time doing it for 50. I mostly because my self-esteem would be kind of crushed. Well, maybe if we never had reached a higher amount of listeners, if it was always just 50, but like, yeah, we got our 50 people. But like when you say that, it's like, man, we had a lot more to listen to it last year.
Yeah,
no, like we said it earlier, we just love talking football. I could do this all the time.
Yeah, I'm looking through like since I've started doing this on like just exclusively on YouTube, and I think Sizzle's got the most click or views, I should say. So I'm averaging anywhere between like 90 and like 400 is the high end. So like I'm obviously not doing this for any reason other than I enjoy doing it. So
YouTube's tricky, man. Like they get you. Because a lot of this is, the video stuff is hard too, and that's just something we've struggled with. Is like how many people are actually watching or listening to something. Like there's been we've used a lot of different ways to try to measure that, and honestly, I don't think anybody knows. Like we've had so many different metrics on the same episode. Like, are you listed? Are we actually getting this many listeners? I don't believe half of that. We did that thing on YouTube. We got like 24 people that watched it one time.
And yeah, like you said, it should be necessarily about the numbers. And I think if you're getting some sort of reaction or interaction with people, that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, just fun conversations to have.
Yeah, because these aren't like I don't know about you guys, but like you're in real life friends. I don't have these types of conversations with most of my friends. Like some of my friends do bet like a little bit, or they used to, but they don't have the in-depth thought process that like you guys do, or like other people that I've had on do. Like, so it is a nice way to talk about my thoughts about sports betting and all that stuff.
I definitely agree with that. Like, it's weird. All these people I've never met in real life that, you have that outlet, because I have a couple friends at sports bet, but they're, they want to bet NFL. They want to bet NBA. They're not betting tennis. They're not betting early morning Bundesliga soccer. They're not getting into the college basketball that I like to get into. They want to bet the big marquee games that are on TV. So it is nice to have, this kind of, it's such a toxic place sometimes. I hate calling it a community.
It is.
There's so many shitheads, which I'm fine with that. There's shitheads in real life. It's just a microcosm of the world, I suppose. But there's enough good people, and there's enough good conversations, and there's enough good information sharing that it just is so awesome to have, because like you said, these are a lot of conversations I couldn't have with people in real life for the most part.
Yeah, you sound like a maniac talking about like, I got this bet at like plus 3.5. I wouldn't bet it at plus 3 though. Like, like what if you like it, you like it, but like you can't really explain that to somebody who doesn't really bet, all that much.
Guys, my phone died. Bad.
Yeah, I was to say we lost you there, but
yeah, I didn't know you're too cool to finish up. I figured your phone died. It's not the first time that sort of thing has happened to one of us. I joked about that where I said I did those periscopes outside. One time I set my phone like on an ice dam on that boat, and you know how like when a phone gets really, and it was like 10 below, the phone, the battery, all of a sudden you've seen the battery going from like 41, 38, 22, and it just started dropping like crazy. I'm like, shit, this is the end of this one. Bye, guys.
Yep. All right, well, see ya.
We don't have a producer.
No. Pirate radio, man.
Join the club. Okay, the last question we have here is, have you ever Earl Thomas'd a podcast groupie?
No, but
I'll never tell.
We can tell a couple stories about Vegas. Never Earl Thomas, but the couple of times we've gotten together out in Vegas have been incredibly fun times. We did one March Madness trip and 2 NFL trips, right? So far.
I never seen you get so mad about something as when you realized like you thought there was just going to be a dispensary on every corner, and then we were downtown where there just are none. Like, where am I supposed to get drugs?
Like, what?
Yeah, we had to like I guess we'll take an Uber, and we did. But that was weird. I was surprised by that. Downtown does not have dispensaries really, or
no.
They didn't at that time.
The Weed Maps. The Weed Maps app has like 1 billion dots on it, but most of them are like they'll drop off locations. They're not actual like retail. So I was super frustrated. Yeah.
Well, if you guys ever go back there, one of my guests from a month or two ago, Johnny Nissan, works at one of those.
Oh, nice.
So just keep
him. That's awesome. I like that guy.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if I don't know if he wants me to reveal that information, but I guess it's too late now.
Don't. I mean, just what's his home address, real quick? I like his. I like some of his. Doesn't he do the Ravel?
Yeah, the Daryl.
Tough day for people named Daryl.
Yeah, Daryl tweets. Yep.
Oh, that's a good thread.
I enjoyed those thoroughly. But yeah, no, we've had some fun times in Vegas. Andy is he's legitimately like a very, very good Vegas hang. Like, you're a very good table game player.
We had fun.
Entertaining
and funny to be with in person is always a great time.
Yeah, we're there.
We had fun.
Like, I don't know if it's just you guys or just me, but like when you guys like look at a Twitter handle and see like their tweets, like, do you have like a certain vision of what they look like, and then you're like, wait, I thought you were going to look completely different, even though you have no reason to think of like what they look like because you've never seen a picture of them. You're like, oh, this guy's got to be like, this fat motherfucker with like a
Northern Indiana mustache.
Yeah,
yeah,
like, and it's weird. Like, I've had those impressions of people in my head. And I'm like, oh wait, I was expecting to look different, but why am I expecting that? I have no idea.
No, everyone I've met in person who I know via Twitter, who hasn't been like on a lot of video, like they all look completely different. Yeah. Like, what? Huh? You're that person? And you can't.
That first time we ever did like meet people from gambling Twitter in Vegas was I met you at the airport, I want to say.
That sounds
right
great.
Away.
We got in almost the same time. Yeah.
We got in at similar times. You waited a few minutes and we just like Ubered it down where we were staying. And then, we hung for a bit, had some tacos or something. Then we got some drugs. And I just I got overexcited with that. And I just said, I'm going to take these edibles like every 30 minutes until I don't think I can anymore. And then I had to go meet people I never met before, which I'm outgoing. I'm fine with that. But it was too much drug candy for that. It was just surreal. Like, man, I didn't think this is how you guys were going to look. And I don't even know what hotel we're at. And this is all just so weird. And I can't keep my eyes open right now.
And I think
it was fun. I had a great time. Everyone we met was just awesome. But at the same time, I should.
Is that when did we go to Prime? Was we were at like a steakhouse at the Cosmo, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
That or that Italian place.
Yeah.
It might have been the Italian place at Paris.
Oh, yeah. Man, amazing.
Very good.
Yes, very good. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I miss Vegas now.
Yeah.
Shout out to Derek Stevens for booking all the planes.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of podcast groupies, I've only ever met one woman in real life who listens to the podcast. So there's not many female podcast groupies for the deep dive, it turns out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't get into this. Don't get into the podcasting biz for gambling talk and expect to meet women that way. It's not a good angle.
No, most of the things that I do in life have never been for the purposes of meeting women. Thank God, because like I'm a bowler. I drink beer. I play fantasy football. I'm just trying to think of all the hobbies I have, and I have to imagine that 95% are men in there, and and my job too, working in tech support. Like, it's not a my life. I'm happy. I'm just saying you don't want to go my route and expect to meet women. It's a good point.
CLV doesn't get you pussy. It's weird.
Yeah, there's no converter.
Here we are.
No converter.
No. Yeah, the plus EV doesn't stand for eating vagina right there. So
that's right. That's a good saying. That's a T-shirt.
Yeah, I think we need to end on that note.
Yeah,
because I was not expecting to say those words together.
Yeah, that was. You asked us the question. Does your wife listen to this? Jeez.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you caught the the back and forth. My mom actually listened to part of the Sizzle podcast, and she was she was like, fizzle, dizzle, like. I'm like, oh God, Mom, don't listen to this.
Fizzle, dizzle, sizzle.
Like, not like, yeah, like I've tried to share it on Facebook, and I'm like, I have a few people that I could talk to in real life about betting stuff, but like most of this stuff goes over their heads, and that's fine. Like, we all have our Twitter's like for my interest, So
yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, this was fun. Appreciate you guys having us, and appreciate. I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to talk to you off the air for a little while before we call it a day. Got some questions for you about some of the folks you talked to. Secret questions, yeah.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, it was fun. It's fun being on the other end. Like, we've done.
It is.
We've never done it together. Like, this is our Earl Thomas moment.
High five, Andy.
Yes, Eiffel Tower. This shit. But yeah, like we've both done a few podcasts here and there, and got some, done some interviews, but never together like this. It is. We got to talk about our meet cute and how things started. It was fun, and I kept you honest. So, no, thanks a lot for having us. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for listening, and talk to you all soon.